Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS with Rachelle. It is always great to be here with you on the best day of the week, Fitness Friday. Gotta love it. Now folks, I heard from a number of you regarding last week's episode with the marketing, tying up some marketing loose ends, and you want me to drop in some earlier marketing episodes before this summer. And so I've actually have an update. I'm actually going to do a little bit, going to kick off with a little bit of marketing here before I shift gears away from marketing. Hopefully until this summer, on into this leadership series here that I have for you. We're going to be talking about what is leadership today, and that's going to be a multi-part series. But I actually have an update, and so I heard from some of you, and you were like, "This was good." Really appreciated that, the way you know your thought processes, and God told you I try to be generous in these episodes, but there's a difference between being generous and crazy. I just can't put it all out there for you. You know what I'm saying? And as I've told you a number of times before over the years, I teach by example. But I also part of my own strategy in doing these episodes and being so generous with my time and content, particularly in the leadership series. That I do these episodes for leadership that I do is that I want you to draw your own conclusions. I give the information and I look to you to draw your own conclusions. Like, for example, I know I wrapped up the last episode by highlighting how the opening in our particular location here in our market, the newest Planet Fitness location, which is going to serve as a perfect dovetail into this quick marketing update that I'm going to give you. The opening of this second location in Novi, right there off of I-96, is going to present, going back to the infamous SWOT analysis. There's some opportunities there, as well as threats for other existing general fitness facilities in the area. But there's also opportunities in terms of, well, intra franchise opportunity, as I alluded to, for PF Michigan Group, in terms of, because this is a destination area, particularly right there off the interstate. So you're gonna have people coming from across the state to our suburban shirt place for Comic-Con and all these things that they do weekend after weekend after weekend there. So our suburb is a destination area, and many of you are in similar situations across the country. I mean, military installations, particularly, just to utilize an example, Air Force, where you've got people going, TDY, going, for a week or two or three or a month or whatever. So they're in different cities, and so they may be looking not to work out on base. But they may be looking for, perhaps somewhere else, more informal to work out. So they may join a facility, and then if it's a national chain, they can transfer their membership or cancel their membership and rejoin when they get to their area. And so I actually purposefully, yes, I mean, particularly this is probably the area where I'm the least generous right here, when I'm doing these episodes, is opportunities, because I like for you guys to really think those things through. And so in that particular case, yes, there's definitely an opportunity for transfers in terms of incremental memberships being generated. And as I alluded to, for the Goliath, the fitness facility Goliath for the state of Michigan group, PF Michigan for the state of Michigan, PF Michigan group, because they've got the largest number, highest concentration of Planet Fitness locations in the state. Of course, they've got locations there in Toledo, Ohio as well, from what I understand. So there's opportunities there. But there's some certain things that have to happen in order for that to happen, which I didn't include. So I gave you the A and I gave you the D, but I left out the B and C. Of course, you all know how I roll, but opportunities as well as threats. So it's so important. That's why I say, yes, it's wonderful to continue to work on your facility or facilities, but there's also opportunities and threats, and things can change, with the snap of a finger, literally. And I want to give you an example of a late breaking update change that I have here. And it's so important, again, talking about spending time here, thinking about your respective markets, competitive threats. Competitive strategy is something, as I've alluded to a number of times, that's an area of specialization of mine. And it is so important, because things will happen and it's easy to get caught off guard. And now you're trying to play defense and hang on, in this particular case in fitness facilities, hang on to members, hang on to customers in the retail or other sectors. But I just wanted to let you know what has changed since the last episode. So I received an email from the Edge Fitness Clubs, which you all know I'm actually studying. I actually spent two and a half years actually studying Crunch Fitness when they launched in this market first off with the pre-sale starting off in March 2017 in our Westland, Michigan, their flagship location here for this state. But then studied them for a long time, and I'm studying our newest entrant, the Edge Fitness, and so went to their open house back September 28th, and so I received their emails, and won't go into all of that, but received one yesterday. Pardon me. I'm looking here, and I'm trying to find the date. So this was the 25th of February, and so it came at 7:40 a.m. from info@edgefitnessclubs.com. So the title is Join Us for an Exclusive Event at the Edge Fitness Clubs. And so they're announcing an open house. And so it's all Edge locations. So that's, one thing I can certainly share is, their marketing is driven by corporate. So, they've got the RSVP and 877, the Edge number. Of course, you can call your local clubs, but a lot of what they have realized, they rely a lot on email marketing from a marketing standpoint, because remember, if you're investing a lot in salespeople, because again, you have marketing cultures like Planet Fitness, very highly marketing driven, but they don't have account managers, they don't have salespeople, but you've got folks like LA Fitness, Lifetime Fitness, Edge Fitness, who are very sales driven. Just to give you some examples, they have sales, they've got account managers, membership advisors, people whose role it is new member acquisition, and you have folks in those situations with quotas and their jobs on the line, so which is two very different models, operational models. And so they invest a lot in email marketing. They do a lot because, again, they want to drive awareness, stimulate interest, but then most importantly, get someone to pick up the phone and call their club or walk in the door. When you call their clubs, particularly if you call one of their local locations across the country, they've got an auto router where if you're a prospective member, you press 1. If you're a current member, you press 2. Why is that? Again, sales-driven culture. It was so important, and I really appreciated them having this particular strategy because when someone is a prospective member, again, it takes a lot for someone to pick up the phone and call a club and inquire about membership. And so, particularly in a sales-driven organization where you've got, you're selling beverages, you're selling protein shakes, you're selling personal training, you're selling, there's tiers of membership levels where you don't just have a base membership, you've got more expensive tiers. And so certainly it's wonderful to bring people in at that base level membership, but ultimately, particularly from corporate's perspective, they want to see the majority of people at one of those higher tiers in terms of their monthly dues. And so you press 1, you're a prospective member in a sales-driven organization. The last thing you want to have someone do is call, and they're dealing with someone that doesn't feel comfortable with sales. They don't really know a lot about the facility or the process, and so they're hemming and hawing, and I don't know, and I'm not sure. That is a coveted, precious opportunity when someone walks into a club or picks up the phone to call. And so even for organizations or facilities that aren't sales driven, it's so important, perhaps particularly if you have very stable staff, that you can have, particularly if there's one person that feels very comfortable doing that, whether that's somebody on the management team or not. Perhaps if somebody's worked in sales before, or they just feel comfortable, or they're passionate or enthusiastic and knowledgeable about the club and memberships. Perhaps you can have a designated person or 2 or 3 or 4, depending on the size of your facility, that are willing to take those calls. All right, in this case, these calls are routed to a member of the sales team, because that way you've got someone that's knowledgeable, somebody that's going to be able to engage the person and answer questions and all of that, and most importantly, hopefully drive them to the website or to come in and sign up and get a membership. But like I said, in the absence of those situations, perhaps you can have a person or 2, however many you need, particularly to give people a day off or whatever, when the designated person or 2, they're off for whatever, the weekend, nights, whatever. But that is so important, because that is a sales opportunity that can be very easily lost by someone not knowing what they're talking about or giving wrong information. And the thing of it is, a lot of times people won't even tell you that. They just will hang up and never call you, will never hear from them again, or they'll go on, and perhaps write a Google review or Yelp review saying, I tried to call and they were confusing and they didn't sound like they knew what they were talking about. So that's just a lost opportunity, which ultimately in many cases end up being an incremental membership gained by one of your competitors down the street. So just take a look at that, really think long and hard about that. But anyway, I got invited to this open house. So free workout Saturday February 29th, all Edge locations. So this is a nationwide open house, a national promotion. Still running the join for $0 and first month free, regardless of membership level. And so what they are offering at their open house, in-body free, in-body scans, dot fit supplemental samples, raffles, personal training, cage demos, group exercise and spin classes, bring a friend, and more. And so they're telling people to RSVP on Facebook, but they've also have a link here that says find club, because it's find a club. So this is an entity or a fitness chain that is certainly growing. And so on the website, they've got 30 something locations now. And so I went and looked on the state of Michigan, because when I went to the open house, they were discussing and highlighting, hey, our first 4 locations are going to be, that location there was Farmington Hills, Michigan, Sterling Heights, Michigan, Rochester Hills, Michigan, and also Westland, Michigan. Those were the first 4. And I remember when I heard that, if you go back to the summer of 2018, if you look at, and for Fitness Friday episode I did called The Sales Advantage, and I talked about that, and I talked a little bit about that. And one thing I mentioned in that episode was that, again, the Goliath of the state of Michigan, PF Michigan Group, like from a competitive standpoint, they represent your model of success. Particularly, if a new chain or anyone else comes into the market, just follow them and see what they're doing, see what markets they're in. And so that was an example. That was, and I heard those first 4 locations, and I said, wow, they are truly they're great minds think alike, because that is exactly what they did. And so when you look at all 4 of them, all of their locations now that they're listed, that some of them are opening soon, some of them are already open. So we've got Farmington Hills that I already mentioned. This is the big one that I wanted to highlight. Northville, Michigan, opening summer 2020, 20111 Haggerty Road, Northville. To be very transparent with you, I thought when I was studying Crunch, I was wondering, and I was just wondering and waiting. Is Crunch going to take advantage of this opportunity on this Haggerty corridor between Northville, Novi, and Northwest Livonia? Right where this newest edge is going to be. And I waited and I waited and I wondered, but then I also see Crunch is, initially the plan was to have this high concentration or penetration of locations here in Metro Detroit, but they're actually spreading out across the state, which is a wonderful thing, because while they don't have salespeople, like I alluded to in last episode, they are definitely a sales culture. So Northville, Michigan. You've heard me talk about Northville, Michigan. I won't get into that. I won't get into all of that, but I can definitely tell you, as you heard me talk about in December of last year on the Fitness Friday, I said now you have the Goliath of the fitness facilities in Michigan. So you have PF Michigan Group opening up a location in Plymouth, miles away from this Northville location. So there's going to be intra-franchise competition, putting defensive pressure on that Northville location you've heard me talk about a number of times here over the last couple of years. And so you've got pressure intra-franchise, and now you have inter-franchise competition with Edge coming in, bringing tremendous defensive pressure. And I only say, I add that tremendous word in there, is because it's sales driven. So again, I can't emphasize this point enough. When you have a number of people in the building, leadership on down, general manager on down, with their jobs on the line in terms of new member acquisition and member retention, it creates a very high level of defensive pressure. When they come in, when they opened up, we're Westland and any of these markets where they've opened up already, it just brings in tremendous defensive pressure, because you've got people with jobs on the line. And it's just, the same thing as LA Fitness, Lifetime Fitness, very sales-driven culture. And from a franchise perspective, Edge is right there. So I saw that. And like I mentioned before, Rochester Hills, another location, Sterling Heights. Yep, mentioned that. We got a new location also opening in summer 20, Shelby Township, Michigan. All right, Sterling Heights, yep, just said that already. Westland, yep, said that already. And coming in the fall of 2020, Warren, another suburb. And so they're getting off to a strong start. They're growing across the country in the summer and the fall and spring. They've got different locations opening up. but I just had to point that out. Things can change. And so what does that mean? Even for the newer Planet Fitness there in Novi, this changes. All right, this new edge, all right, is a threat. It's definitely a threat. It's not too far away, close to the interstate. And so people that would potentially even potential Planet members of Northville that would have, perhaps even gone to the Lifetime Fitness there on the Novi Northville border or something like that. Now they may have come from the Northville Planet to this newer Planet that will be opening in Novi. All right, so assuming that the truly loyal ones will absolutely do that, just no problem. But the threat exists with Edge coming in now, and has the potential, a high degree of potential to recruit those members, to poach those members away, because now you've got another option that has group fitness, that just has other offerings. But then that's why I always say, from a competitive strategy standpoint, I talked about this in the Sales Advantage episode that I just referenced that I did in the summer of 2018 when discussing this. Okay, and a Planet has certainly the franchise certainly has strengths that they can leverage in terms of number of their advertising now, more than 2,000 locations, where Edge is currently in the 30-something range. I mean, there's different things that can be highlighted. 24-hour locations, which isn't all Planet Fitness locations across the country, but Edge, certainly is not. They don't have the 24 hours. 24/5 are their hours. So things can change so quickly. Schoolcraft College, right there, will be right down the street from where this new Edge is located. Certainly a threat to Schoolcraft College's of their fitness center, and so, but not. How can I say this? These university and college subsidized facilities, such as Schoolcraft, all right, yes, they may have some members leave, but it's not like it's going to devastate them financially. Why? Because many or most of them are subsidized by student activity fees that students pay as part of their tuition. So it's not like, oh no, we're losing members, we're gonna have to shut this place down. That's the difference with college and university type fitness. Yes, they appreciate the incremental revenue that comes from members of the community, but it's not devastating like it would be for a private or even a commercial facility or community when you have members leaving and going somewhere else. So yes, it's a threat, but it's not a dramatic or drastic threat that certainly one would point out. And me, I always like to be transparent, and so I received that email. And so on the 26th of the next morning, I actually replied to that email, info@theedgefitnessclubs.com. I replied to that invite and said, glad to see you are opening a new location in Northville, Michigan. There is so much potential in that area. Residents will be happy. Cheers. R, and I always sign with my initial R, sent from Rachelle's iPad. And so I always like to know, I'm pro-fitness, so I support them all. And I'm just so happy. Again, the residents of Northville, they will have a strong option. It's something in it. Just to utilize a basketball analogy, it's like, we've had that main player down there, ruling the roost from a competitive standpoint for several years now. And now, all right, instead of having wide open looks there on the court, now you've got some defensive pressure. Now you've got some folks in the lane putting some various lanes putting some defensive pressure. All right, now perhaps you're forced to take jump shots, instead of either the easy layup or the slam dunk, and which is always a wonderful thing. Me, I'm always hyping up just the value of defensive pressure and an overall competitive strategy. It is so important because it keeps you on your toes. It helps you not take members for granted, because once you realize all of a sudden you're the only one in the market, and then all of a sudden some competitors start coming in and some brand new facilities, and you heard me talk about last time, it is tough to compete with brand new. Particularly sales-driven organizations, okay? And so Edge is going to be a threat to Lifetime Fitness, which is right up the street, because they've got Edge has very strong offerings, product and service offerings, training, things like that, at a much lower cost. Okay, they've got the base membership of $9.99 a month, and they're giving a month free. All right, so that's going to be a challenge to Lifetime as well, but not for all of their members, because again, Lifetime is targeting a certain demographic. They've got to be able to a certain level of affluence and all of that. And so that's why in this email reply that I sent, where I said that there's potential in that area. Absolutely is. Absolutely is. And so just always like to be transparent about when I give kudos and show support, and things like that. So that is it for marketing. No more requests. No more requests. I promise it's going to be coming early summer. You know, those marketing series tend to be long, so it'll probably be the whole summer doing those episodes, that marketing series, like usual. But I've got to move on, folks. I've got to go into leadership. Leadership is so important. And so I wanted to spend this first episode on leadership essentially talking about, what is leadership? When you think about leadership, I mean, this could be a 75 episode series on leadership, and it's not going to be, in the interest of time. And so when we think about what is leadership, And so I think it's so important because a lot of people associate leadership with title, with position, with office location, with prestige, and all of that is true. And all of that is true. And I remember, and you know me, I'm always big on giving credit where credit is due. I remember being at Walsh College, and that was when I was affiliated with the Leadership Center. And I heard a speaker talk about, it was actually it was a leadership presentation, and I just really, really enjoyed that. And I heard the speaker say, leadership is all about influence, the ability to influence, to make a difference, and I really want to think about, and we could go several different ways with this whole leadership conversation, and so people tend to get caught up on titles and positions. And all of that is my stuff customarily always attempts to slide off my legs because I move around a lot in these episodes. And so this is an example. People will look at here, we see some of the greats, Sports Illustrated. So we see here some of the greats. This is the February 2020 edition. And so, okay, we got here Jerry Rice, Steve Young, Peyton Manning, bam, Drew Brees, gotta love it, and Joe Namath. So when we see some of the greats here, and so people will look at this and say, now those are leaders. Those people are, this what you see up here, MVPs. All right, these people are the MVPs of life. These are the people that we see endorsing products and getting, they've been paid, and of course, getting like Drew Brees, getting these very high dollar contracts. Every year, every season, contract renewals, or perhaps even for a few years at a time. But so people will look at people, whether it's somebody on a magazine, the person that has the corner office, the person in their community that's perhaps very wealthy and very prominent. And so what I want to challenge us all is to realize that regardless of our position, and yes, someone being a CEO, obviously inherently in the title, that is leadership. That is, but again, we got to remember a CEO that has very little influence over the, and this stuff happens. If you got a toxic person at the top of an organization, and that individual, yes, they may have power, they may have title, he or she may have power or title, but there's no true influence. All right, the people are not, the layers underneath the CEO, depending on the size of the organization or corporation, have no respect for this person, very little respect, and everything they do is out of responsibility, out of obligation, and out of a desire to keep their jobs. And this is true, of course, in the fitness industry as well, and fitness facilities and fitness manufacturers. There's no escaping this dynamic. That yes, title can equal leadership and all of that, but this concept and this ability to recognize that the true leader or leaders in the organization, in the facility, in the corporation, many times don't have big titles. All right, you've heard me talk for a long time before I left Powerhouse. And with all due respect to everyone in the building, everyone, all prior employees, I'm sure, 1, 2, or 3 have left. He did a great job with hanging on to his people, but he's an outlier because he's the co-founder of the franchise. So that's there's a lot of cachet that comes with that. He's really easy on his people. So retention is something that facility does really well. He does really, really well with that. So, but you heard me talk about, with everyone that worked there when I was there, and perhaps if anyone has left and some new people have come on board, heard me talk on and on about Sue. and Sue, and just how passionate she was about that organization, how she was a cleaning lady. At that point, she had almost 18 years. So I left in 2017. She had what? She was almost at 18 years, or at 18 years at that point. She had, the co-founder, the owner of that location, who bought it from Fusion Fitness, Paul Wright, owns about a handful of different locations, starting with the Highland Park flagship location for the franchise in the 70s. And she went to different locations, and even still, I'm sure she probably still does it now, goes and rotates and helps out at various clubs, drives all around the city and all of that to help out when needed. But see, she was the cleaning lady. And she was, her leadership, just her commitment, her loyalty to that organization was outstanding. That was absolutely outstanding. And I know I used to highlight her, and I always have to be, in these episodes, and again, we talk about my own leadership, I want to talk more about that next time. But, for me to be successful doing what I do, yes, not just on these episodes, but professionally, particularly when I'm evaluating people and I'm doing those type of things, I have to be emotionally detached, because that way, I'm not playing favorites. I'm not just, allowing emotions or how I feel about something or someone rule the day. And in that situation, she was an absolute MVP. She was an absolute MVP. And, I don't push for people to get promoted or challenge in that way or any regard. I allow people to make their decisions. But I know when he would watch Fitness Fridays, there was no doubt that he saw exactly how strongly I felt about her as an employee and what an asset she was, how she had an ownership mentality. She was part of that team, and she was loyal and do whatever she had to do to make that founder, that co-founder, and that owner look good. And there's I can go on and on about that, but that's an example. All right, she was the cleaning lady, in my opinion, but I told you I don't push people like that. She should have been way up the ladder. She should have been at corporate. She should have been at their corporate by now. But she's so loyal, with all due respect, she's right there hanging in there. I'm sure still there, making things happen. But that was an example. She wasn't the general manager. She wasn't an assistant manager. She wasn't a corporate VP for the franchise. She was the cleaning lady and demonstrated remarkable leadership. And so we all need to ask ourselves, everyone, particularly from a leadership perspective, and society will tell you, oh, you need to have this title or you're not really a leader. If you don't have, the power that comes with being, just to utilize even government, an elected official, and the power and the prominence and recognition that comes with that. We're going to talk a little bit next episode about purpose, so I don't want to jump ahead of myself. And so we need to ask ourselves, those of us who are leaders, and we are all leaders in some aspect of life, whether you're a parent, whether you're a community leader, whether you're a leader in your workplace, whatever the case may be. All right, we are all leaders in some aspect of life. So we all need to work on we need to continue to work on our leadership ability and recognize that we can all learn and grow and develop and continue to just evolve and become better leaders day by day. And so we've got to remain committed to our leadership growth, our leadership development, and recognize society's going to tell us, oh, you got to have this title, you got to do this, you got to do that, or you're not really a leader. And if you fall prey into that, and it's easy to do, that insecurity that's driven by societal expectations to say, well, you need to have the corner office. That's how you really made it when you're a CEO or you've got a VP title behind your name. But if you lack purpose in those roles, those would be some of the most miserable years and times and hours and days of your life. All right, so this purpose, our purpose of leadership has to be, we just cannot be just overstated. I could just sit here on and on and talk about just the purpose of leadership, but I'm gonna highlight that next time. And so when you think about leadership, and so that's why we say we need to ask ourselves, what is my own leadership vision? What is it, what are you trying to do? It could be vision, it could be mission. Yes, I'm trying to purposely, yes, it's purpose, but I'm trying to hold off on the purpose until next week. And something that I got, and you think about me, my own leadership vision, and keep in mind, that's what I'm telling you, society will try to tell us, will try to impact us, and I'm just saying that from personal experience, where you feel like you gotta have this title, you gotta have this kind of career, you gotta do this and that. Who cares? The most important thing for us, particularly as leaders, is people are watching us and following us, and we are impacting people and lives, is to be authentic and full of purpose, and recognizing that we're not doing what we're doing to impress people, that truly at the end of the day could care less. So you could have the quote unquote best title in the world, but if you're miserable, that's up to you. Is that the kind of life you want to live? So we have to ask ourselves, all right, what is my leadership vision? What is my leadership mission? What am I hoping to accomplish in doing what I do? And for me personally, and as I stated, it's evolved over the years. Because I told you, when I was in the corporate world, when I was at Northwestern, I had this whole goal. Rachelle was going to be like an SVP of marketing at a top marketing company. And I look back now, and there's with all due respect, there's nothing wrong with that. For people who have those goals, whatever this and that. But in terms of purpose and life purpose, all right, there's other areas in which I am certainly far better suited in terms of purpose. I am walking in my purpose now. I am absolutely walking in my purpose. What I do, including these Fitness Friday episodes and Posi-TIPS, as well as the non-Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS that I do, no work at all. No work at all. That's why I'm generous with my time. I absolutely love what I do. Whereas before, it was all about trying to get the title, trying to get the office, trying to get the prestige and the recognition. But folks, when we grow, and this has been an experience of mine, and I've talked about confidence over the years though, when we grow in these various episodes, Fitness Friday and non-Fitness Friday, the value of confidence, importance of confidence, I always talk about confidence. But when we grow in our confidence and our inner security and recognize that we don't have to go around trying to prove ourselves to the world. That's a surefire way to burn out, and you will never be happy, and you will never be satisfied, because the people you're trying to impress and satisfy and all of this and that are never going to be satisfied. There's not. They're just not, because that's just human nature. So it's so important that we live lives and have leadership journeys of authenticity. All right, it's easy to listen to someone that's walking in their purpose. That is absolutely just on fire for what they do. You may not always agree with what they're saying. We may not always agree with what they're saying. But if you recognize that their heart's in the right place and that they are truly driven by purpose, those are the people. And actually, when people often tell me my leadership journey now is simple, and it took some years to evolve for me to just say my leadership mission, my whole view of leadership personally and professionally is to help people. It's that simple. It didn't used to be. My leadership vision is to help people. And I recognize as a part of that, a consequence of that, because I don't wake up in every day and say, I'm going to be an inspiration to everyone I come across today. I don't do that. I don't do that at all. What I do is ask myself throughout the day, does this person need some help? Is there an opportunity to help or serve this individual, this facility, this customer, this client, whatever the case may be? All right. And as an after effect, as a consequence, this is what I have. Some of you may have noticed that I keep it right here on the other side, on my right side. With me facing this way, it's on my right side. Aim to inspire. All right. And so this was just so cute. And see, folks, that's why you got to go to Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree, I love Dollar Tree. But so you get things like this. Just these cool little inspirational, trinkets and that kind of stuff. And so, while I don't wake up every day just aiming to inspire, this was the only thing that I could find that had inspiration, inspiration on it, and so I just said to myself, inspire, because I can't change people. We're going to talk more about this lesson, these leadership lessons. We're going to talk more about that one. I recognize this is a very hard lesson for me in terms of what I do. I can't change people. I can't make anyone do anything. It is truly up to, when I'm helping someone, in many cases, they derive inspiration from me, from what I do, from my purpose, from my passion, from my energy and enthusiasm and all of that. And so for me, I have to remind myself, it's all about helping people, and what they glean from that is inspiration, because I can't change anyone. And we're going to talk about how that relates to the leadership journey, and how many folks in leadership roles are disillusioned, burned out, upset because they are trying to change people. And we've all done it. We've all done it. We have all made it, just whether you're trying to change your significant other, spouse, why you're trying to change the people that work for you, all of this and that. And that's why I always say, and I mentioned it a few times, last year, just how you think telling your employees to watch Fitness Friday is, if you think that is going to have some long lasting, powerful behavioral change in terms of impact, you are sorely mistaken. I mean, it's just, and see, again, I have to be secure enough with who I am to tell you that. Like, don't do that. If it was all about just trying to, if I was all about recognition, like how I used to be, I would not be telling you that. Right, but I care enough about you, and I care enough about your facility, your facilities, your own leadership journey to recognize that is a blind spot, and we all have blind spots, but that's a blind spot, because that is not going to truly motivate someone for the long term. Yeah, it's going to motivate them more than likely in due time, motivate them to find another job, and you're going to be sitting there scratching your head wondering what happened, because what you're saying in that instance. If you're really, really, really honest with yourself when you do that, you glean inspiration, you glean insight, you glean knowledge, and I challenge your thinking in all of that. But we can't help people that don't want to be helped. If someone's asking for help, if someone's asking how to take things to the next level, if someone is asking for ideas, then absolutely you do that. But just telling somebody, or just handing them a book and say, here, read this. Or here, watch Fitness Friday, or watch whatever, just having someone do that, particularly in the absence of guidance and coaching and conversation. And that's almost in a way of like delegating your leadership to someone, and I'm not in your leadership chain. And so people are just really not going to respond well to that, and so just really think about that in that blind spot, and how that is going to cause people to leave. Because people will take that. They won't take that in the spirit unless they're asking for help. If they're the kind that's a sponge, they're open, they're always willing to take things to the next level, then yes, that's very different. But your average person is going to make the person feel bad. You have to have, particularly if someone does that to you, and you're not a go-getter, and you're not open, and you're not willing to just, take things to the next level, you're not that kind of person. You have to have a pretty strong self-image to be able to withstand that week after, just utilizing myself as an example. Someone telling you to watch Fitness Friday week after week after week, regardless of what your role is, whether it's somebody making a trainer or manager member of the management team, or just, heaven forbid, the front desk, somebody at the front desk being told to watch this. But they're going to have a very tough time with that because they will take that as you telling them, either some people probably would be direct or definitely indirectly, that they're not good enough. That's exactly how they're going to take it. Hey, what are you trying to tell me? And if you're really honest with yourself, you have to say, well, what is your motive for doing that in the first place? Are you trying to change them? Are you trying to tell them they're not adequate? So you watch this so you can get better. And that's fine as long as that's part of a development plan. That could be a piece of a development plan. But if it's not, the person is going to be discouraged, feel bad about themselves, and quite frankly, just depending on how the market is, wherever you are, plan their exit. So I always like to be, just honest with you guys, and just I want the best for people. That's, again, because I'm not here, I'm just trying to help you. I don't include my contact information. I didn't do that in the beginning on these episodes. Let's be sure, let's be clear. But I do that because this is my opportunity to give back, and just to empower people in the fitness realm, which of course is something that I'm very, very passionate about. And so leadership is so important. We think about our vision, our mission. Think about how important serving others is to that mission. That's what I consider myself as, I'm just here trying to help you. I just absolutely get such a kick out of doing these episodes. And so, because that is part of my purpose. This is part of my vision. So that's why it's easy for me to buck conventional wisdom to say, you should not be spending this much time on these episodes. And yes, I leave out chunks of information, particularly regarding strategy and opportunities. But still, I give a whole lot, and you certainly can reach some conclusions based on the information that I give. But yes, I bunk conventional wisdom because I don't care. But traditionally I'm a nonconformist anyway, so I don't care what the notion is of how you should only give 1 minute, little 1 minute tidbits and give them your contact information. With all due respect to people who do that, hey, kudos, you do your thing. But this is my way of giving back. This is my way of serving people in the fitness realm. And so when we talk about leadership and just how important a leadership vision is, and asking ourselves what our motives are next time, what our purpose is. And so as I'm going to share a couple of case studies, a couple of just quick examples, in just the interest of time, a couple of leadership. When you think about leadership vision, think about people. I'm always encountering people. Sometimes I recognize them, sometimes I don't. Just in the interest of time, but I do give verbal feedback. In the absence of the opportunity to formally recognize someone, I do give verbal feedback, and particularly regarding leaders. When I'm out in the retail or physician's office or Michigan Medicine, wherever the case may be, restaurant. It's just probably because I'm hardwired for that, and this is what I do. I always have my little radar up for leaders, particularly leaders that are outliers, that are out front, making things happen, those positive outliers. And so I got to lean in here for a second and grab this. It has been, we're already to month 3 now of the year, and I have not brought up Good to Great. The book by Jim Collins, that I love to highlight. And so see, look, folks. So when I demonstrate my point, the point I always make before I give examples, you can see here, bam, I now have my LSU Tigers steering wheel cover. So now I'll be able to actually mimic the driving when I'm making this point. So see, folks, I'm always looking for ways. I'm just a very creative, right brain person, so I'm always looking for visuals when I'm doing any type of presentation or speech. But I knew that I certainly got a kick out of this, and I knew you would too. So I'll now be able to officially mimic. When we talk about the aspect of Jim Collins' book that I always highlight. So we think from a leadership perspective, based on your leadership vision. Do you want to be the most respected fitness facility or facility in your market? Do you want to have the most number of members? Do you want to be recognized by a publication, local publication or national publication, based on some of the great things that you're doing? Whatever. Do you want to have a 1 year employee retention rate of 90 to 95%? Yes, it happens. Some places have 100% employee retention, no turnover. All right, so whatever you're, based on what your leadership vision is for your facilities, organizations, whatever the case may be, recognize that you, as either the leader or a member of the leadership team, are driving the bus, proverbially, just figuratively speaking, based on the point I always make from his book. So the leader or leadership team, driving the bus. So when you think about, he talks about from getting to where you are to where you want to be, and just the vision that it's going to take, the mission that it's going to take, from actually to next time, the purpose, what it's going to take for you to get there from point A to where your vision for success lies. Whatever, then it's different for every person, every leadership team, based on where they are. Let me put this down now. So whoever's driving the bus, you or your team, your leadership team, driving the bus towards where you want to be, he mentions in that wonderful book. So on that bus, you need to have the right people on the bus. The right people on the bus. And that's why this whole notion of purpose is so important, particularly in the fitness industry, where turnover, particularly on the commercial side, tends to be pretty high, regardless of chain. Regardless. I mean, you go to Google reviews, Yelp reviews, you will see it across the industry, across geographic locations. So the turnover issue is real. So you want to have the right people on the bus. Number 2, you want to have the right people in the right seats. The right people in the right seats. If you have someone that is not the best people person and they're at the front desk, it's it's not going to be a good outcome for that person, or the members or customers, or your bottom line, to be quite frank, because they'll be running people off, being a sourpuss or whatever. And so also, thirdly, you want to get the wrong people off the bus. You want to get the wrong people off the bus. Yes, we talk about how the attrition tends to be high in the fitness industry, particularly on the commercial side. But attrition is not always a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing. Because you will have people that recognize, this isn't for me, this isn't working out, this isn't what I thought it would be. So there could be, and this happens across all industries, there's a disconnect between an employee, particularly a new employee's expectations, and the reality of the position. And so, and I've mentioned on previous episodes, an HR episode I did in that short series last fall, I said that's where testing, a prior, like pre-hiring, actually pre-interview assessments can be done. And I mean, you could do these things on SurveyMonkey. I mean, there's easy, cheap, free to determine where a person falls. Do they align with your values? And you can ask them questions based on the values of your organization to see, even right there as part of a pre-screen process, is this person going to be a good fit? Is this person going to be a good match? Is this going to work? What's going to happen? You could use something like the DISC profile. Where does this person stand in terms of their natural work ability, work personality, work style, leadership style. As I've alluded to on before, prior episodes, I'm a high D, so, but I'm also high on influence. So influence is not too far behind that. It's interesting because when I worked in sales, I had that influence was the highest, and then the D was right under that. And so it's amazing, I've left sales and now the D is back. And so, back in grad school years and all of that, it was D and then I. So it's always this kind of rotating thing with me personally. But fortunately, I had organizations, and when I was, doing just my own leadership development over the years, I've seen that, where I've done these assessments and seen kind of, okay, it's just shifting a little bit, and all right, now it's this way and this way. But when you think about just our personalities, I can see why, just to give you an example, I'm going to talk about this next time, purpose. When I was in that marketing role, there I was, top marketing company in Minneapolis, just everything I thought I wanted, and I was chained to a chair, chained to a desk. And we would have these strategic planning meetings where you sit around a conference room and there's like people from R&D and finance and sales and product development and the promotion marketing team. I mean, it was just all of these brand manager, assistant brand manager. And so decisions were not made easily. It was by like group consensus, and then it took forever, and just based on my personality. But this is something that I've learned by assessments, by leadership development training. I can realize why, like there I was, I thought I was getting ready to be set up for that SVP and marketing role, during the course of my career, everything I thought I wanted. But sitting there, tied down, chained to a desk, and in these big meetings where you have no autonomy, because I've learned that. I'm a high D. I have a very, very high need for autonomy and decision making and results. That's why sales was such a good fit for me. And that's why, of course, now, just with that self-awareness and knowledge, I put myself in situations, I can think well ahead. Is this going to be a good fit for you? Is this going to be, is this going to be a good, even if I'm volunteering? Yes, we're going to do this as a team. We're going to do this whatever, but please don't tie me down to where I'm just stuck in one spot for several hours. Like it's not going to be a good situation for me or the situation. So I need to be on the move. I need to be up, whatever this and that. And so Bob Bender, General Mills, they worked with him. Hopefully they still do. But Bob Bender was a psychologist who we had to do profiles. As we came in as interns or people that come in before, the interview process to look at their work styles, their leadership styles, all of that. They were very picky on who they hired. And I so remember, being an intern and Bob Bender, and I've shared this before, but we always have new people watching, but this is such an important point, is we're going to talk about purpose next time. Leadership purpose and just overall life purpose. But purpose wasn't part of my living. A purpose-driven life was not part of a plan back then. Rachelle was trying to make it to the top, to be recognized by society, which I look back now and I'm thinking, what a joke. You know what I mean? Me being happy and fulfilled, that wasn't part of the plan back then, but you rest assured it is now. And it's amazing how happy I am, and just wonderful. But so Bob Bender called me up that summer, several weeks after, I started the summer internship there. And he said, Rachelle, I've looked at your profile, I've looked at your assessments and the results, and I've been doing this for 20 years. And I just want to let you know, you need to be in sales. And I remember, I'm telling you, in that moment, I'm thinking, there is no way. I've just shut out everything he was saying to me. Yeah, I was real polite and respectful on the phone. Okay, yeah, this is great, this is helpful. But he was telling me, and I appreciate his courage, because there's a lot of people, they won't tell you that. With all due respect, you got people on your staff that will tell you exactly what you want to hear. In that case, they're trying to keep their job, they want to stay in your good graces. But I certainly, after I moved here to Metro Detroit and started working in sales, and just felt so free, and it was great, and I was out in front of customers, because he said, I'm looking at your profile, Rachelle. You need to be out in front of customers in a sales role. And I just blew him off like, do you understand? I'm in graduate school. This is my second graduate degree, and this is my career path, and what you're telling me does not mesh. It does not fit into my career plan. But ultimately, it did. Ultimately, it did. And so that's a situation. And so, again, having been my own self, I think long and hard in any situation. Is this a right seat for me? Is this going to work? Because we can't just think, we can't just be selfish about it. We have to say, now, is this going to be a good fit? Is this going to be a good fit in terms of client situation, or whatever the case may be, a volunteering role, leadership role in the community, whatever the case may be, we've got to ask ourselves. Because we do ourselves and whatever entity or person or organization, a community, whatever otherwise, a disservice. When we know ourselves, and fortunately I've grown a lot when it comes to self-awareness, and just knowing like that autonomy piece. And again, how many terms have you heard me say? There's two things I need in my life, because I didn't know this back then: freedom and change. And see, that autonomy is rooted in that freedom. All right, so it's so important that we think about on our leadership journey, what are we doing? Why are we taking this role? If someone is stuck in a bad, and I'm kind of going off here a little bit, I'm going to get to these two case studies here in a second, but this is such an important point. So many people are miserable professionally and personally, but are miserable. They know they're in the wrong seat. They know they're on the wrong bus, to utilize the good to great example, right? But they don't have the courage to get off the bus, or to raise their hand and say, or figuratively speaking, I'm in the wrong seat. Like, this is not working for me. This is not a good situation. And when you do that, when we do that, regardless of any situation in life, number one, yes, we demonstrate courage that most people frankly don't have. They just stay stuck in a bad situation and complain about it forever. But you have the opportunity, or you give the other person an opportunity to help you to make a change. And I've mentioned this a number of times, studied Anytime Fitness, and certainly one thing that franchise does well is that they allow people employees, manager or trainers, to rotate between clubs, even with different franchise owners. If something isn't working, if someone's a manager at this location and it's not quite working out, again, it could be a personality conflict, it could just be member dynamics, whatever the case may be, employees or staff members have the opportunity within that franchise to go to different locations. It's after 60 or 90 days of employment, but think about what that does for retention. That is a very flat organization where you have an owner or owners, you have manager, and you have trainers. It's just, and many times that owner, manager, and trainer is the same person. So, very flat organization, but think about what that does. Giving people an opportunity to say, hey, I like this Anytime Fitness bus. I'm on the right franchise or fitness chain bus, but, either I'm in the wrong, I'm not in the right seat, I'm a manager, and perhaps, I really want to be a trainer, And I got to go to this different location. I want to be a trainer and I can stay here at this location. But it also gives people an opportunity to get off the wrong bus. Point number 3, which is tough. To get people to say, hey, this isn't working for me. Whether they're very honest with that, to just say, I have a conflict with the owner or the owners, and I want to be in a different franchise group or whatever the case may be. But that gives them an opportunity to keep people on the Anytime Fitness franchise overall bus, the main bus for the franchise. So folks, but I spent some extra time on that point, but it is so important. It is so important. Okay, we just want to be in it for the right reasons. We want to be in it and do the right thing. And this is true regardless of what our levels is and whatever we're trying to do in life. And I want to give you an example here as I shift into these promised couple of quick leadership profiles or quick case studies. These aren't formal case studies, but I have a couple of examples for you. As always, I was let in with the whole Jim Collins Good to Great example on purpose. Because when I was in Shreveport, Louisiana, when I was there for the holidays, I was there for 3 weeks and had a good experience at Super One Foods. And folks, I've been holding on to this receipt. I told you don't know what I do for these episodes. And I actually screenshot it. I actually did an online survey for this particular store director. And so when I did the survey, it took me a while after I did it and I screenshotted it. I realized I put manager instead of store director. But of course, they know, they got the point. So this was, I actually went into the store. So their location, Super One Foods, grocery chain. So it's 745 Shreveport Barksdale Highway, Shreveport, Louisiana. And so what day was this? So this was January 1st this year. 9:47 a.m. and 5 seconds, operator number 180. So I went online and did the survey, Super One Foods, and I screenshotted it. And then the date on this is January 3rd. So I was still in town, but I saved the receipt. And of course, I highlighted a couple of points so I wouldn't forget. And so the customer satisfaction program, it states, please tell us, this is funny. Please tell us in 3 or more sentences why you were highly satisfied with your Super One experience. Remember I said my radar always goes up for particularly folks in leadership roles. All right. And so I was home for the holidays, had a lot of time, and just whenever I see this kind of stuff, I like to recognize it. So it says, gives you the box to add your comments, as I just alluded to. There were a couple of lines. Here's what I wrote. There were a couple of lines in the checkout lanes. Mike, and I put the manager in it, it should have been store director, saw people waiting and immediately opened a register and called some of us over. When it was my turn, he greeted me cordially. He asked if I found everything I needed, and I said yes. I noticed his name tag said he had been an employee since 1986. I commented on his tenure, and he said he was proud to have worked for the company for so long. It's rare to see that type of tenure these days, especially in retail. I appreciated his courtesy, empathy regarding customers waiting in line, and positive attitude. And so I had a wonderful experience that morning, and I just want to kind of break this down just a couple of quick points. So he was visible. The store director, so the head honcho of the entire grocery store, out on that floor and visible. So when you think about leadership, whether you're talking about retail in a grocery store, fitness facility, visibility of leadership is important. I think it's important for the customers. Yes, it's important for members in a fitness facility standpoint. And yes, folks at the upper echelons, managers, assistant managers have things to do. They have tasks and all of that. But it is so important whenever humanly possible to just show your face, to just walk around. In that way, and that's why I alluded to in that survey, because he was active, he was out on the floor, and not you got some managers and some directors and people in the upper echelons of leadership in these type of scenarios that hide in the office. They keep the door closed for the entire shift, and you never see them. Their employees never see them. All right, and so he was out on the floor. No one had to call him. None of those other cashiers had to call him and say, and we've all been there. We've all been in retail stores. Can someone, so-and-so, we need assistance on the front registers, whatever the case may be. Can someone come and open up another register? We all hear these announcements made over the PA system. That wasn't necessary. Why? Because he was out on the floor doing things and keeping an eye on the lines in the stores. And so from a leadership perspective, his visibility, but also his empathy to just open up and say, hey, these people don't want to, this is January 1st of 2020. People don't want to be in lines, waiting, whatever, all of this time unnecessarily. Why don't I just open up a register? And something else, and one thing I highlighted is that I could tell, again, I evaluate people and places and things like that professionally. So there's a lot of things that I can tell that you're probably like, oh my gosh. Like she always gets so much from just a few minutes in a different location. And so at the top of it, it says your cashier is, and it has manager. And see how I highlighted that in lime green? So that taught me that wasn't the first time. That is customary for him to hop on a register like that and help people. Because how many times have you seen, whether it's a manager or a shift leader or whatever the case may be, come over and perhaps give someone a break or open up a register, and they will have whoever's cashiering at that particular register's name on the receipt. He has his own lane and his own name or title, manager, but it should be store director, but they have manager on there. So he does that often. In fact, he's got his own lane, and it's actually great from a reconciliation standpoint of the drawer at the end of his shift, but he does that regularly. So I knew this is not just a one-off occurrence. This man has no problems, 36 years with the same company, hopping on a register. So going back to the Jim to Collins, good to great, I said, here we go. And I was, he was very nice. And I thanked him for opening up. When I came through, we were kind of chatting briefly as he's working people through the line. And thank you so much for opening up. And I looked at his name tag and saw that 36 years and commended him on it, because how rare is that? 36 years? He said, yeah, I've been, to different stores and stuff, but it's been 36 years with the same company. I love this company. I'm proud to work for this company. And bam. And I love that. I love to have those type of interactions where it's kind of like undercover boss, but I'm just a random shopper or whatever the case may be. I love those. I love when that happens. When someone, particularly in a leadership role, is able to demonstrate that passion and enthusiasm and purpose and vision. And I am quick, as much as humanly possible, to recognize them in some way. And I just took a moment to recognize him. Is that, you know what, this man has got some humility. He's a servant leader. He does not mind hopping on the register. It is not beneath him. So you need someone, particularly in retail like that, is not afraid to stock, not afraid to help unload the trucks when during deliveries in the morning, just willing to pitch in and do whatever is necessary. And that's a lesson for all of us. I'm actually going to close out the episode here after this next example and give you an example from a book that I've recently read that talks about that same thing. But as promised last time, I've got to tell you about my experience at the Planet Fitness location, Dearborn, Michigan on Ford Road. So I was celebrating that I made it through the month of January. So I went to one of my favorite restaurants in Metro Detroit. It's called Mexican Fiesta in Dearborn Heights. So literally a few miles down the road from where the Planet Fitness is located, just go right on west. Right on, stop at Mexican Fiesta and have some enchiladas, and it's just delicious. I love it. Folks, I always treat myself. I just love life and find an opportunity to celebrate just everything. And so celebrating, I made it through the month of January, a rough month as always. And so Saturday morning, February 1st. So went on in there. It was actually pretty late. It was like 7-ish, almost 7:40, I recall, in the morning. And so I had actually, I did not set my alarm that morning. So I had actually anticipated being there at like 6:30 in the morning. So I woke up and was like, oh no, look at me, I'm late. And I got to drive all the way to Dearborn. So whatever. So made it there. And so went to this particular location. So walked on in. And Rachelle, Speedy Rachelle is always Speedy Rachelle. And so I walked on in, and so I have my little thing out as I'm walking because I'm getting ready to, have the person scan me in, whatever. And so around the corner, just as I'm walking up, around the corner comes Natalia. And Natalia in her hand has a cleaning rag and a, what do you call that thing? Spray bottle. And so let me quickly digress here because I like to give the full context. Because again, this is evaluating people, places, situations, all of that. This particular location, we know franchise-wide, one of the brand standards for Planet Fitness is cleanliness. There's a very heavy emphasis on that from a compliance standpoint. So a lot of cleaning done by the team members, and they do a fantastic job with that, just across locations. My location, my home club in Commerce, they do a wonderful job. with maintaining the clubs. But I'm about to make a comment about this particular location that, because I have been to this location in multiple day parts. So as early as like 5-ish in the morning, all the way to like early afternoon, late afternoon. I can't remember if I was there like early evening, but in back when I used to use the hydro massage, I would get off a flight not too far away at the airport, and on my way home, I want to say maybe once or twice, use the hydro, but I can't remember if that was like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. But anyway, I've been there multiple day parts, like 5-ish, 7-ish, 11-ish, I mean later on 2-ish, and all of that. So I've been there across multiple day parts. So you think from a research standpoint, seeing patterns, just to basically, keep it simple, seeing patterns or consistency in something. And for me, going in multiple day parts, multiple visits to this particular location, and because I'm an early morning workout person, so that's why I'm saying I can't make this comment, about other locations, because I haven't been historically in multiple day parts like that. This particular location, I have never been in this location. I've never walked into this location, whether I'm hitting the front door, by the time I hit the door, or head to, make it to the actual walk to make that left turn into the locker room, without seeing someone cleaning multiple day parts. So what that told me a long time ago, that is a highly disciplined culture in terms of cleaning and just maintaining that, again, the brand standard and consistency across day parts. Yes, I see it in the morning, but yes, I've seen it in multiple parts, in different employees and different 4 seasons of the year. So that just lets me know that pattern consistently and consistency from a cleaning and a highly disciplined standpoint. So I have to make that point to give you full context, because then when I walk in and then I see her name tag, and I see her with an assistant manager, Natalia, I see her name tag, and she's got this rag in her hand and she's got the spray bottle, but very, very had a good attitude. Good morning. How are you doing today? I mean, just enthusiastic, energetic. I mean, that greeting, because remember, again, customer service is part of what I do. Just that greeting, she was very engaged. That just taught me a lot about how she felt about her job, just had a wonderful attitude early. Here we are, Saturday morning. But you had somebody that had the cleaning stuff, and I saw that, and I said, this is just uncanny how every time I come in here, somebody's cleaning something. Somebody is cleaning something. So she had that stuff in her hand, had a great attitude. So I walk on in, to the locker room, whatever, this and that. And then her colleague was out cleaning, she was out on the floor. And then she left, and then of course I was still on cardio, so then she went back to the desk, and then Natalia hit the floor. So you see her pushing the cleaning cart, and I thought to myself, like, this lady right here means business. Like, she's making sure this cleaning stuff happens. But why am I pointing this out? She is an assistant manager. She is an assistant manager, just like Mike, the store director of Super One Foods, that yes, in many cases, people will argue, hey, I have a management role, I'm an assistant manager, regional manager, whatever the case may be, store director, we're talking about retail. I don't do menial tasks, And so when I see someone in a management role, that is willing to do menial tasks, that tells me a lot about the person. Yes, that person is a servant leader. Our next leadership series later this year, we're going to talk about different leadership styles. That servant leadership style and how those behaviors and that type of leadership style engenders trust, loyalty. And in that particular situation, I remember thinking to myself, again, you have Planet Fitness with those very tough brand standards in terms of cleanliness. And yes, I'm sure I can't survey the whole franchise to determine, but in the absence of a traditional, like your LA Fitness and these other like Edge Fitness and places like that have custodians, they have custodial staffs. Powerhouse had 5, 6, 7 people in their custodial staff. So the front desk person that gives tours and checks people in and does general customer service tasks is also in those other fitness chains not responsible for cleaning. Now, Anytime Fitness, you will see the manager cleaning, you'll see the owner cleaning, you'll see some trainers cleaning, but those are very flat organizations or franchise facilities. And so when I see someone in a management role, particularly a Planet Fitness in a Planet Fitness location, doing that I don't know, that always gets my attention, and it just be say, okay, you have someone that's not afraid to grab a spray bottle and help her colleague out. Because yes, leadership roles, again, a lot of times across any type of entity or industry, I'm up here, I'm a member, I'm a management, whatever this and that. I don't have to do that. I don't have to do those tasks. That's why I'm up here. But for all of us, I mean, I think there's great lessons in that. Lessons in humility to say, we are not better than anyone else. And in a franchise like Planet, in the absence of traditional custodial staffs, again, I can't survey the franchise. Maybe you have franchisees that have custodians on their staffs. Maybe that happens out in some locations, but I don't know. I can't comment on that. Whereas other chains do, and private facilities do have custodial staffs, and community fitness facilities do have custodial staffs. I mean, that is a very tough, and you see it on Indeed.com, Glassdoor.com, how current and former employees of Planet, just all the cleaning that's required. I mean, that's an Achilles heel. It's a wonderful thing as a member and all of this and that, but I know it's very tough for the employees. And I remember thinking even that morning, just, with Natalia being willing to share the load like that, was so important, because when you think about employee retention and how easy it is, for any of us, I mean, if you're in a role like that, if you're a formal custodian and that's your job. Hey, I'm the custodian. I'm here to make sure all this stuff is clean and to do it all day, and that's my role and that's my job title. But for people that don't have that official job title and as part of their job responsibilities, it can be tough on them, and it certainly does contribute to turnover. Because people just say, I'm tired of cleaning. I clean all day. I'm just tired of it. I want to go somewhere else. And so that kind of stuff happens. And I remember thinking to myself, here, you got Natalia, an assistant manager, that's willing to share the load with that other young lady she was working with, and it was great teamwork and collaboration. But on an overall big level, macro level franchise perspective, I thought to myself, and as you've heard me, I talked about Bling Fitness and how they require their manager, members of the management team, their leadership in those individual clubs, yeah, they're cleaning. The cleaning is part of their responsibility. But because if you don't do that, you can set up the us versus them, management versus non-management dynamic there, and people get frustrated and people leave. And I remember thinking, like, this is wonderful, just a wonderful demonstration of leadership. And you hear me when I highlight these different leadership examples. You're not hearing me talk about just groundbreaking things. You notice that? It's the simple things. It's the simple things that we can do as leaders to make a difference, to serve people, to help people, to make a difference, to share the load, all right, and perhaps keep someone else from burning out on a task and leaving, again, and creating or contributing to a cycle of attrition. What can we do as leaders? How can we humble ourselves? See, folks, I'm working on my humility. So we all, when I'm working on something, that means you're going to hear about it. So there's this lesson of humility, though, to just recognize that, hey, just because I have the title, that doesn't mean that I'm above everything. And I'm going to close this episode out with a wonderful book I've recently read. Michigan's very own, he's actually an icon in the Ann Arbor, Michigan area. You all know how much I love Ann Arbor. Rich Sheridan. And so Chief Joy Officer. I'm going to talk more about this, during this series, but I wanted to quickly highlight and leave you with something here that is powerful, that reinforces the point I just made about leadership and what leaders do and how leaders are willing to serve, help others. And so in chapter 9 here, it says, value leaders, not bosses. And so what I want to do here, it says, this paragraph, good leaders, on the other hand, are selfless, though they aren't martyrs. They pitch in where needed. They are humble and don't see any work as beneath them. They are not afraid of hard work. The work can be mental, emotional, or physical. They are as apt to clean up after a meeting as they are to facilitate and energize a discussion during the meeting. So no work is, again, they're not better than anyone else. They're not too good for any type of task. They're all about leading, making a difference, serving others. So let that be a lesson for all of us. And I wanted to utilize those two as examples to close out. Now I see wonderful people all the time, everywhere. And I wanted to, in the absence, since I don't do the Planet Fitness member surveys anymore, I was actually going to say something to her. Remember I said verbal feedback, I do that, but she was somewhere else when I was leaving. But I wanted to tell her, great job. This is great leadership that I saw that you doing, engaged in this morning. Great leadership. Just a great, great example you're setting. And so let's all continue to learn, grow, develop, and evolve as leaders, and it will truly make a difference in whatever area of life or areas of life that we're leading in. But that's all we got to do. Where none of us is perfect, but we continue to learn, grow, and develop. And as I talked about in this leadership episode, work on our leadership vision, solidify that, refine that, be very crystal clear on that, our leadership vision, mission, whatever you want to call it. And next time, we're going to talk about leadership purpose, which is also very important. So folks, it has been great. I've had a blast once again, and I cannot wait until next week to continue this series. But until then, remember, I am positively passionate about your fitness and leadership. Make it a great day.